Quick sound check. Yeah, the ISP is still playing up, so I am likely to just randomly disappear in the middle of the stream again. So we'll see what happens. Well, one of the things I need to do is figure out how to get Hypertube connection really easier. If we assume that we send it down the same lane as this, look a little bit weird. Well, look, we'd like just to fling it straight off here, but that would mean that the staircase would need to be rebuilt, so that it was only going around two corners. I won't take the staircase down this side because the damn stone shroom's in the way. Because what I could do is I could send the belts down this side, and then the staircase might be encapsulated within the reach of the overhang. Remember to press play on the thing. So
Cool, let's move on.
I've been well rested, but I'm forgetting to do some of this shit.
Because we're running out of time. Holy shit. Chaos physics. Yo, chaos. The vehicle changes are so dope. They are hella broken right now. Like parts of the vehicle overhaul is so much better and part of it is so much broken right now, but that's because we're moving over into the chaos engine. Like driving around in vehicles and all that stuff feels so much better now. The only issue is like all the automation with vehicles. So like when we're simulating stuff, there's some janky shit going on at the moment. I hope we can iron all that stuff out before we release update 8. But yo, so stoked to be able to drive around on foundations and stuff like that. That's like one of the biggest, really like reasons why we wanted to move using Unreal Engine 5, because we knew we needed to rework the physics for the vehicles, and we sort of put it on pause because we were like, maybe we'll move to Unreal Engine 5 and then we could do it there. So like changing the vehicle physics was like the first thing we started looking into when we were contemplating moving to Unreal Engine 5, because that was where like the biggest gain initially. We thought. We've also realized that the world partition is quite big, but initially we were like so stoked about the fact that like maybe the vehicle system will work so much better, and the physics are much better. I haven't tested it like an insane amount, but I have been driving around on the map a lot, and there's still like few cases where there might be cases where like, why did the vehicle just bounce around like that? But if I compare it to like how it is now, it's like, you know, it's still less amount than it was now. There's been a couple of cases where like I'm driving up on like nodes, like ore nodes, and instead of it being like, you know, acting on with the wheels on it, it's still like flips. So that's kind of strange. But I don't, maybe it does that now. Does the physics update affect how stable or janky vehicles are in multiplayer? See, does the physics... Does the physics update affect how stable or janky vehicles are in multiplayer? See, that's a good question. I actually don't know at the moment. Does the physics update affect how stable or janky vehicles are in multiplayer? See, that's a good question. I actually don't know at the moment, because there's undoubtedly aspects of it that we need to, like, not only change how the physics work for the vehicles for the game itself, but also like how all that multiplayer support will be. I actually don't know. I haven't tested that actually. But if anything, you know, I think it will be better in multiplayer. But you might still have like it's like, so here's the thing, right? Because it's kind of, there's two aspects of it. You have the vehicle's physics as they are, and then you also have like the networking physics simulation that's going on. Because the way it works is, the way it doesn't work is you have a server and you have a client. The server's telling the client like, hey, you're driving a car and car's over here, and then their server's like simulating what's going on. Like, it's not possible to do that, because you would need to send, because most often physics operate on like a lower tick rate than what the game is updating, to be able to simulate what happens between the ticks, so to speak. Because the game, if you're running the game in like 60 FPS, but it's not tied to FPS actually, never mind that, but imagine if we running the game at 60 ticks, 60 hertz, that might not be granular enough to be able to get like proper simulation on wheels, because there might be stuff happening between the frames or the ticks, where you'd need to like know what actually happened. And it's not really possible for a server to be able to send you that information, because it needs so much data. So what we're doing is we're simulating the physics on client, and then the server is like making sure that we're where we're supposed to be, and if we're not where we're supposed to be, it will I don't know if we're rolling back, or if we're using rollback, or if we're using some other technique. As you can, there's plenty of ways to solve that problem, and it's a huge problem. But it will sort of adjust to make sure that we're in where we're supposed to be. But before we simulated the physics, this was janky as shit in our game. It was so broken. I'm so glad we did that. I think we did that for update 4 or 5. That was quite a while ago, where we started simulating vehicles on clients. It made the game so much better using vehicles on client. But there's still there can still be issues where clients don't match up. So changing the physics to use chaos shouldn't affect that portion of the game, so to speak. So like the simulation aspect of like whatever physics engine you're using, that will still sort of be its own problem, if that makes sense. And that's a problem that we have semi-solved, and now we're applying a new physics engine on top of that. But it's the same physics engine. So yeah. It's the same physics engine. So yeah. How did it work in Halo 2? Halo 2 is probably... How did it work in Halo 2? Halo 2 is probably... I don't think Halo uses rollback. I think Halo just like warped you, just moved you to where... I think there was like a... It had like a granularity of like, if you're too far off where you're supposed to be or something like that, it would move you back. I don't know, because it kind of depends. Like, some games don't really need rollback. I don't think we have rollback. I think we just warp you as well. Because rollback is when you keep track of like where the client thinks it is and when the server knows it is. And then when there's a mismatch, the server will ask the client to go back in time and then reapply the same input from the player. I don't think we're doing that because we don't really need that fidelity. I think we just move you to where you're supposed to be and then be like, all right, and then you're in this vector and you have this velocity. But I don't know. I actually haven't worked on that system too much. I just warped that? Yeah, that's what I thought. Because when you're using rollback, usually it's tied to like player input is the main buffer that you're sending data. So he would know what you were doing in between as well. And it's a lot more work getting rollback working than just like moving you back. But I wouldn't be surprised actually if Halo was using a rollback because it is a fast, maybe on the later Halos for sure, because it is a faster like shooter. Call of Duty uses rollback, I know. They have like their own special fucking magic. Where it like guesses what's gonna happen player input wise. It's so weird. That is like actual magic. Cool. That's physics. I don't know if I need to talk too much. Yeah, no, I do have to talk about one thing because I had a lot of questions about like the other physics, because we only talked about vehicle physics, because all the physics in the game are going to change. Player physics is going to change. And I've gotten a lot of questions of whether or not hypertube cannons will work in the same manner, or and yeah, so player input wise, we're using the Unreal Engine like player movement logic. So that has already been like ported by Epic, right. So we haven't done anything special there. We're just using the system that they have, and that has been migrated to using Chaos. So like we're out of the woods for player movement and stuff like that, but we have a little bit of like special logic when it comes to hypertubes. And for the most part, if you don't have like any advanced kind of physics, it like just migrating should just work in Unreal Engine. But here's the thing. When I've been testing, the hypertube cannons actually don't work at the moment. their movement logic. So that has already been like ported by Epic. So we haven't done anything special there. We're just using the system that they have, and that has been migrated to using Chaos. So like we're out of the woods for player movement and stuff like that. But we have a little bit of like special logic when it comes to hypertubes. And for the most part, if you don't have like any advanced kind of physics, it like just migrating should just work in the real engine. But here's the thing: when I've been testing
I didn't
the
rewind
hypertube,
too far enough.
cool. That's physics. I don't know if I need to talk too much. Yeah, no. So weird. That is like actual magic. Cool. That's physics. I don't know if I need to talk too much. Yeah, no, I do have to talk about one thing because I had a lot of questions about like the other physics, because we only talked about vehicle physics, because all the physics in the game are going to change. Player physics is going to change. And I've gotten a lot of questions of whether or not hypertube cannons will work in the same manner, or and yeah, so player input wise, we're using the Unreal Engine like player movement logic. So that has already been like ported by Epic. So we haven't done anything special there. We're just using the system that they have, and that has been migrated to using Chaos. So like we're out of the woods for player movement and stuff like that. But we have a little bit of like special logic when it comes to hypertubes. And for the most part, if you don't have like any advanced kind of physics, it like just migrating should just work in the Unreal Engine. But here's the thing: when I've been testing, the hypertube cannons actually don't work at the moment. They're kind of broken. But hypertubes seem to work, which puts us in a very strange position right now. Wait, don't freak out yet, okay? Because that puts us in a pretty strange position, because we kind of like that feature. So I talked to Mark about this. So we have like internally decided that hypertube cannons is going to be like an official feature. Like we're gonna support hypertube cannons. So we're gonna have to fix that bug to make it work. It's like it's such a strange situation to be in, because like that's hypertube cannons historically was not intentional. Hypertube cannons were sort of like discovered by community, and we were like, oh, that's a cool bug. Let's not remove it. You know, let's keep it. But now we're in a situation where it kind of doesn't work anymore, like because of the physics change. And
breaking news from Earth. Widespread chaos
like I mentioned,
and mayhem.
we kind of
World
view that as like a core
President urges
feature
all
now,
citizens to do
or a
their
feature.
part and harvest
Even though it
alien
wasn't an
artifacts.
intended feature, we kind of see it as like we don't want to remove that anymore. So we're gonna try and fix hypertube cannons. Hypertube cannons might not work exactly the same way as they did before. It's a similar type of problem with like the vehicles. Jason mentioned the vehicle in the video, where you know it's gonna pretty much be the same thing, but it might be, you know, some slight change here or there, because it's really hard for us. It's really hard in general to like be able to like replicate in one physics engine exactly how it works in a different one. So like if you tune your hypertube cannons in a very particular way, after update
You are so
8, we
lucky that you
hope that
found
they will
this
still
most
function, but
valuable
you might
artifact.
need to like adjust them a little bit or something like that. Maybe they'll be less powered, maybe they'll be more powered or something like that. I don't know. I think the goal is to have it so that they pretty much work the same way as they did before. That's the goal, at least. But I just wanted to like be transparent about that and explain the situation, because I sort of discovered this when I was testing, that some of the hypertube cannons that I'd set up just didn't work, and yeah, that's it. What about slide jumping? So slide jumping was one of those cases where yeah, that's it. What about slide jumping? So slide jumping was one of those cases where we sort of got that automatically, because Epic, when they when they implemented chaos physics, they sort of took the player controller and applied it in a similar fashion as it works right now. So the slide jumping and stuff like that pretty much worked the same way as before. I haven't tested on running on conveyor belts. There's probably a bunch of stuff we haven't tested yet. But the goal really is, like, all that stuff is to be able to reach the same point as it is with the current physics engine. And yeah, the hypertube cannon functionality, I guess it's gonna be official. I guess. I don't like it. I don't like that it's an official thing. But that is definitely something we don't want to rob you guys of. And yeah, yes, you guys. Confirmed, yes. That is the goal. All right, let's talk about audio. Because I don't think there was any question left on chaos. I can circle back on this if there's time. But there's I don't have too much to talk about audio. The only thing I want to mention is that we're not using Epic's like new meta system or what it's called. We're still using v19b, which is probably going to be... I believe for the mod creators, they're going to be annoyed to hear this. And yeah, the hypertube cannon functionality, I guess it's going to be official. I guess. I don't like it. I don't like that it's an official thing. But that is definitely something we don't want to rob you guys of. And yeah, yes, you guys know. Confirmed, yes. That is the goal. All right, let's talk about audio. And yeah, yes, you guys know. Confirmed, yes. That is the goal. All right. That is the goal.
And here's the next segment. And we start the audio segment.
All right, let's talk about audio. All right, let's talk about audio. Because I don't think there was any question left. I can circle back on this if there's time. But this I don't have too much to talk about audio. The only thing I want to mention is that we're not using Epic's like new meta system or what it's called. We're still using v19b, which is probably going to be... I believe for the mod creators, they're going to be annoyed to hear this. And we're also partially annoyed because v19b isn't super easy to use. And we also have needed to make like... We needed to make like a bunch of F special stuff for v19b, but it like we have put so much work into v19b, so I think that's mainly the reason why we probably will not use anything else. But I'm just checking. Yeah. There will be like a couple of audio changes though in the game. There's new additions for audio. There's more like detail for audio in a lot of aspects. We talked about in the video, the vehicles have like simulated audio for the wheels and stuff like that. There's audio for stuff that didn't exist before until now, and stuff like that. But I think you guys are probably gonna notice that when you're playing this out. I don't know if I should list things, but in regard to like Unreal Engine 5 for update 8, we're not using meta sounds. We're using the good old v19b. Yes. I don't know if there's too much more to talk about. So I have just a miscellaneous note here. There's a bunch of stuff. Yes. I don't know if there's too much more to talk about. So I don't know if there's too much more to talk about. There's too much more to talk about. The good old... yes.
Let's switch scenes again.
I don't know if there's too much more to talk about. So I have just a miscellaneous note here. There's a bunch of stuff. one really important thing I want to talk about is hardware requirements, because this was probably one of the, I don't know why I saved this for last in the stream, because this is actually one of the biggest topics that I've seen people talk about after the video was released, is that a lot of people were worried that they won't be able to play the game anymore because we had to upgrade the, we released like a preliminary new minimum specs, which was the GTX 1650, 4-core CPU, 8 gigs RAM, and an SSD because of how Nanite works. And I just want to mention really quickly that, like, let's see, like all the footage you've seen here when I was doing the thing, maybe this is a better one. Like all your footage you're seeing here, this was captured on a 1080. Now, granted, 1080 is still one step, I believe, after 1650. But I think my point is that don't like buy new hardware before you've tried it out, because yeah, buy a 1080. It doesn't run great on a 1080 though, I'll tell you that much. I'm getting consistently 30 FPS.
Well,
with
I
Lumen on,
I have to like lock it to 30 FPS just to stop it from boinging in it.
But like I've played the game a lot on my machine at home, and I mean it works. What's wrong with 30 FPS? Andrew, get the hell out. I mean it works. Like if you can play the game fine on older graphics card. Granted, I don't have a massive factory, but I'm at tier 5 or 6, and it runs pretty smooth. So when it comes to the hardware requirements for the game, don't get too like choked up on it. I actually don't know how we've determined these specs either. It's possible that we just follow like one of the guidelines from Unreal Engine, where like, yeah, they're like, oh, if you're making an Unreal Engine 5 game, then you need to have this, at least this. It might be the case that like they're anticipating that you're going to be using a lot of Lumen or you know, a lot of the techniques or whatever, a lot of Nanite, stuff like that. But we're not really using all that new stuff, I guess. So I mean, the only thing really is that the goal really is to support DirectX 12 is the default renderer for us. So any GPU that has support for DirectX 12, you know, will be able to run the game. So yeah, try it out at least before you start buying like a bunch of stuff. I have GTX 1060. Like that's the thing. I think the game will run. I think it's famous last words. But I don't know. 1060 and 1080 were a big leap. Maybe I don't know. But do consider not like be too worried. We'll see when the update launches. That's when we get worried whether or not we made a big leap. But it's sort of like the way the story goes, like the cookie crumbles in a way, because we are using a lot of techniques that will make the game better, and you know, we are moving forward in time, and a lot of stuff is getting deprecated. Like we dropped support for Windows 7 because Microsoft dropped support of it. One of the reasons why we dropped support for the current GTX, like the GTX 770.
I think we'll add some more things in.
I don't know if there's too much more to talk about. So I have just a miscellaneous note here. There's a bunch of stuff. One really important thing I want to talk about is hardware requirements, because it's note here. There's a bunch of stuff. One really important thing I want to talk about is hardware requirements, because this was probably one of the, I don't know why I saved this for last in the stream, because this is actually one of the biggest on the website, was because that card is no longer supported, so there's no point in us saying that we are going to support it. So really, if you have any GPU that can use DirectX 12, should run, but I don't know. It's tricky. Defining like minimum specs is so hard. Like, what does that mean? Because in the world of computers, there's so many factors that can play into it. So I don't know. So panic once we release it, then we can talk. But definitely 8 gigs of RAM on like, you can be like, holy shit, you need that. God damn. So yes. Let's see, and then we mentioned DirectX 11. DirectX 11 is still somewhat supported, but we really want to move to DirectX 12 because that's the target.
Over there.
I guess. Let's see, and then we mentioned. I guess. Let's see, and then we mentioned DirectX 11. DirectX 11 is still somewhat supported, but we really want people to move over to DirectX 12 because that's the target for us. DirectX 12 is the target API, rendering API, when we're like optimizing the game. Vulkan, yeah, Vulkan is like second, but Vulkan isn't something. Like Vulkan is in this weird state where it's like Vulkan isn't fully supported anywhere. It's like a very promising rendering API, but similar like to OpenGL, you know, Vulkan is still in development, and some would even consider Vulkan to be an early access, you know, in a way. Yeah, it's infantile stage. Yeah, exactly. So like, and then Vulkan by itself is still kind of a work in progress, and then you have the Vulkan support in real on top of that. So, but we still prefer Vulkan over DirectX 11. I'll say that much. Like, if you're gonna try another, if it doesn't work in DirectX 12, then Vulkan is the next best thing, really. Last is DirectX 11. So yeah, I think I've caught most of the. I've talked about the topics where I saw a lot of confusion from people. Not a lot, but like. Vulkan is the next best thing, really. Last is DirectX 11. So yeah, I think I've caught most of the. I've talked about the topics where I saw a lot of confusion from people. Not a lot, but like where I saw confusion. Talked about hardware, talked about Lumen, talked about. Yeah, this is essentially the Q&A section. If you have any specific questions about the stuff. I didn't talk about the input system. Input system. You guys won't really notice. Like, it's not something you guys can take advantage of. It's like something for us to take advantage of. Questions about the stuff. Talk about the input system. I didn't talk. I didn't talk about the input system. Input system. You guys won't really notice. Like, it's not something you guys can take advantage of. It's just like something for us to take advantage of. Is Unreal Engine 5 gonna fix the issue with large saves crashing a load? Yo, no. Is Unreal Engine 5 gonna fix the issue with large saves crashing a load? Yo, no, maybe not. It depends. But one thing, actually, it's a good thing you brought it up, though. I actually don't know if that's the case. Unreal Engine 5 gonna fix the issue with large saves crashing a load? Yo, no, maybe not. It depends. But one thing, actually, it's a good thing you brought it up, though. I actually don't know if that's the case on crashing a load, it is potentially going to, because it depends. It depends. Because here's why. In Unreal in update A, we are updating the way saves are archived. Doesn't make much sense, but we're upping the support for how do I describe it? We're changing the save structure a little bit. Not like the save structure, but like how the save structure is archived, which has support for bigger archives. There's been a couple of folks that have managed to like go, because we used to have like a limit of like a gig within the archive, and some people managed to go over that. We don't know how. We found it on the QA side, and we now have better support for that. It's also a point that should have been brought up, why you should back up your saves, because the archiving has increased from a 32. Damn it! I'm trying to find the email. This was explained, because right now I'm just giving you guesses what the actual change was. But okay, TLDR, like something with the save system has changed, because there were a couple of folks that were having issues when they were trying to save or load, where it would exceed some value within the save structure. That value was like, we theoretically didn't think it was possible, but some people managed to do it.
That's Andrew.
So, like, if when you're loading a save file and the issue is because of that, it should work in update 8. It could also be the case that the reason why you're crashing on load is because you're exceeding your like memory on the GPU, your VRAM. Then there's nothing we can do. You have to upgrade your VRAM is the only way to fix that. Because that can happen. And that's happening a lot currently internally, but we're trying to fix that. Yes. All right, let's see here. Will satisfactory metaverse? Oh, no. I mean, could be. Yes. All right, let's see here. Yes. All right, let's see here. But we're trying to fix that. Yes. All right, let's see here. We'll set it. Will satisfactory metaverse? Oh, no. I mean, could be. Download more VRAM, exactly.
Okay. Hopefully you get rid of the pyramid scheme related question by just shifting the end of the download more VRAM. Okay.
Will the pause be reduced or bigger saves in update 8? No, I believe we mentioned in the video that...
Yeah, it's a bit of an undocumented, well, editorial policy of sorts that I do not archive any questions containing NFT bullshit. Don't want to encourage any of that nonsense or bot spam or search engine penalties by having NFT shite on the website. People have asked those questions previously and I just don't include them. No. Well, I wasn't really paying attention when I exited the hypertube whether or not I hit the safety fence. Right, the next thing on the to-do list is get the next strip sorted. Anyway,
There won't be any change there in terms of safety. Will the pause be reduced or bigger saves in update 8? No, I believe we mentioned in the video there won't be any change there in terms of... Will the pause be reduced or bigger saves in update 8? No, I believe we mentioned in the video there won't be any change there in terms of save time, unfortunately.
looks like we might have entered the Q&A segment rather than the like miscellaneous segment. So if this trend continues, I might take a brief break for food and like be back online to stream properly. Finish up what I was doing in Satisfactory. I've got this Q&A segment / miscellaneous segment to do here. Then there's the 40-minute Data 8 Unreal Engine 5 announcement video that we account for. And there's today's 27-minute video, which I haven't had a chance to watch yet. So I'm behind on shit. Now this is going to intersect with oh, I've got more to do. Lovely. Yeah, I was going to get this playing.
You're gonna break the satisfactory calculator? Yes, but we kind of do every time. Time, unfortunately, of save time, unfortunately. You're gonna break the satisfactory calculator? Yes, but we kind of do every time. Similar with mods, you know how like mods work, update 8. Similar thing with all the save file history. Well, it doesn't really break, it's just that like you need the parser needs, yeah, I guess it breaks. You need to change the parser to handle their save format. Yo, okay, I can just echo this again. Update 8 is not just Unreal Engine update. Like, there's more in Update 8 than other save format.
That's going to be a problem because the trees in the way.
Yep. Or the parser needs, yeah, I guess it breaks. It needs to change the parser to handle their save format. Save format.
I'm going to leave that there because clearly we're well into the Q&A segment. I spelled miscellaneous wrong because lossless cut's got squiggly lines on it there. Oh, I'm missing an L. Right, that's going to be a problem. Alright. How was that not in range of that thing? Come on. I unplugged it? Evidently I've unplugged it at one end or the other. Tipping there, I think if we go up one more, so we tipping. Okay, so we're tipping on the small pants, which makes fussed about, it's the bigger ones. Yeah, I think I'll be good there. Cool. Get this to be a little bit more symmetric. I'll solve the problem of getting around that tree. supported from both sides. And of course, big giant tree in the way. Let's repeat the pattern again. Well, this one's going to be problematic. Hello. Yeah, this one's going to be problematic because we're just on the edge of a tree, but the pillar might go through it. Plus, I've got blooming crab hatcheries down there. Yeah, this looks. Ooh, that looks like it's just barely going through the tree coverage, which means if Rocky Desert Tree ever gets updated, it'll break. I mean, it's tipping on one leaf. Oh, well, I'm being fairly okay. It's just like the computer had to get sent away for repair, only for it to be complete waste of time, because everything was fine with it. At least we couldn't identify what the problem was, so that we could solve over the phone. And it wasn't a cooling or a discharge issue, because it was tried repeatedly over the course of a couple of days. So, yeah. But it's within the first year, so zero cost. This means that next time it happens, I'm going to insist on an on-site repair, because if all they have to do is diagnose the issue and it just decides to start working randomly, I don't want to have my time wasted. I have a feeling I might need to take care of these because of being down here. Okay, or not. Never mind. Yeah, it's also making me think that my next gaming setup has got to be a crap ton more redundant than the current one. So, aside from some software, which I still haven't set up some backups for, like the archive site builder project is like the Git repos remote. If the auth credentials get lost, because they're obviously get ignored, then regenerate yourself some new ones so that can be recovered. All the cache files that aren't in the Git repo are from the YouTube API. Now, regenerating those, I've done that before because a drive went kaput. It takes about a week to get around the YouTube API quota limits of basically just like running it every day. I don't think I've got the necessary like stuff to actually apply to have the quota expanded. Because like one of the things they ask you for is like the well, for want of a better phrase, business reasoning. And like, oh, the business reasoning I've got is, it's like, oh, why do you want your quota expanded? Because I've got a lot of shit to fetch. Plus, like, so like the YouTube API thing for that is like, video title, description, subtitles are kind of bypassing the API a little bit. So that's something. I'm just going to do a quick check here. Am I tipping any plants that I give a shit? Maybe. How far up will that have to go? Anyway, yeah, that's good. The captions are the biggest problem, because that is well, let's see. I did run a rebuild of the project from an old copy of the thing. I've moved the work to an M.2 drive on the new computer, because it basically turns a 10-minute build into a 4-minute build, which isn't that much of a saving, but it's yeah. Let's see, where are we? Wrong folder. There we go. So it is currently a 4.5 gigabyte tarball of all of the captions data and associated stuff. Because the nature of Windows I/O is that anytime those files are written to or read from, the antivirus scanner kicks off. Which is a problem, because that means it kicks off, like, well, let's see how many files are in there. 30,320 files. So having antivirus software installed is like really good, but it's a pain in the ass. And having to have that rebuilt and the YouTube API stuff is going to be a big problem. So one of the things I have to think about is, do I set up just normal folder sync backup things, which is going to get a bit complicated to Git repository. I mean, I have everything backed up but the Git folder, and that everything but the Git folder, the node modules folder, the composer vendor folder. I can have those all backed up, which might be effective, but the problem is if I've got backup software which keeps multiple copies of the files, it's going to be kind of wasteful with the captions backups, because that means any time I've got 2 copies of the file, one that's written to and read from live, and another one that's kept around as a backup in case I interrupt the process at the wrong time and it corrupts the file, which happens annoyingly often. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why I didn't update the website while the computer was away, because while I did have an archived copy of the site builder on an external drive, it takes longer, and it would have been 4 months out of date. And it did, when I did run the update last week, it took an uncomfortably long amount of time to finish. And it wasn't pleasant. So I wasn't really in the mood to do any live stream clipping, because even though the old gaming PC was fixed, because this new gaming PC was bought because 2021 the gaming PC went kaboom, and I was without any machine. I think for most of September, to the point where people actually asked about it on the live stream. And I didn't have the patience to deal with shit. Hang on a second. I'm just gonna. Okay, I need to. If I'm gonna do this shit, I need to multitask a little bit. So give us a second while I get rid of the tab patches. Wait for the autosave to do that. So I've got 3 different conversation threads going on at the moment. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, 2021, computer go kaboom. I'm without it for several weeks. It gets fixed, it comes back. Then it takes us like several weeks to a couple of months to get caught up with the VOD clips. 2022, the computer goes kaboom again for pretty much the exact same reason. Only this time there's additional annoyance because the courier broke the case. Well, I think broke. I think it just damaged it a little bit when it was being delivered. So it had to get a new case. So it's got some USB-C ports on the case which don't work because the motherboard for that PC doesn't have a USB-C header. Right, now if I put... Let's see, if I put a 4-meter thing there, it's going to trigger this shader, so it's going to look weird. So we can't use that one. I don't think I can really give a crap if that's buried under the foundation, so we can grab that out. So yeah, 2022, computer goes kaboom, rather than waiting the several weeks for it to get repaired and come back, etc. I just skipped straight to buying a new one, cause like the, well, then current one could just about barely run satisfactory, like have to like cap the FPS to 30 FPS just for it to not boil an egg. That's going to go further. I like to have these perpendicular supports symmetric, so that one, like I can't like put this one here and that one further down. It's just going to look kind of weird. Well, it would be, but it also, it's like the fans have to go that loud, it feels like it's trying to take off. So yeah, it was a 980 based series. I feel kind of grumpy about that machine anyway, because the only reason I bought it was because I bricked the previous computer trying to fit the 980 into the then current system, so I was upgrading. I was either upgrading from a 500 series or 700 series to a 980 series. My Spanish is terrible. I wouldn't bother trying to converse with us in Spanish. I've got enough context to have a guess what they're asking, but I don't do multiplayer. Oh yeah, there's that. That means I have to stop type. I have to stop what I'm doing and type. Oh, and that going. Oh, I don't know what the context of that statement is. Yeah, computer, blah 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 blah. So, get the new PC. Get quite used to gaming on it, and then 4 months in, it goes kaboom. Well, it didn't go kaboom. The previous PC literally went kaboom because the power supply literally fried itself, and we only figured out it was the power supply that was the problem and not the rest of the computer, because plugging the power supply in fried 3 different surge protectors in the process of doing process of elimination to find out what the problem was. Hello. So, while I did have a gaming PC, well, I don't know what was drawing the power. I think it was just I don't think it was a power draw issue. I mean, that machine did have power draw issues in the sense that if you had the Xbox controller plugged in at boot, it sometimes wouldn't finish post. just because of the USB bus. But that was resolved largely by getting an externally powered USB hub. I can rant on that one for a while as well. No, so I think it's more likely that there was like this, the wiring in this place is just like either a little bit out of date, or there was enough subtle like deviations in the power supply that tripped the surge protectors, and a fault in the surge protectors let some current through to the power supply, or the nature of the surge protectors being tripped something in the power supply, which killed itself to protect the motherboard. Because when the old gaming PC got repaired, like everything was fine apart from the power supply both times. It's just like the second time the case had to get. Well, actually, it might be the third time you said that, to be honest. The second time, like the only reason the case had to be replaced was because of the courier, which I can rant about as well. So waffly. Yeah. So getting back to the storage bollocks. That's what I started off. So yeah, the site builder gets interrupted by Windows I/O nonsense. So that's why it's put onto an internal M.2. That's why I didn't do the site updates, even though I think I managed to finish something. Yeah, like all of the YouTube videos for that week had already been uploaded, so I only had to process them on YouTube, and then I could have built the site. I really wasn't in the mood to. The state that like the machines and shit were in, and that's going to clip through these three. Yeah, let's knock that up again. But now I've got the machine back. And current plan for the next, like, just to rewind on all of these tangents. The current plan for the next gaming set, it's not going to be a gaming PC, it's going to be a gaming setup, is to make it as redundant as possible. Because while the NAS seems to be good for doing automated backups, it doesn't solve the problem for Windows boot. Because one of the issues that could crop up is everything on the motherboard's fine, but the boot drive. That can be assessed by using a Windows, like a Linux Live Boot USB. So the plan there would be to I think is it PXE boot. Why did it come out there? Have a look. Give it a second. I don't like to intersect the foundations of plants. Oh no, yeah, that would clap into speed. So yeah, there's a possibility of having like a server rack based system. So getting like a 4U chassis and sticking, getting the supplier that I get the computers from to stick a gaming PC in it. Then having a rack-mounted NAS, the rack-mounted PXE boot device. So if Windows ever goes kaput, I'm not without the gaming system because I can just swap out the boot device. Save that. Basically making the gaming system as redundant as possible. Nonsense with the courier is I'm actually getting pissed off enough with the courier to the point where I'm putting a formal complaint through the computer supply with them. because the courier is a national logistics company that can't seem to have a system that lets their drivers make notes on deliveries to say, hey, this building doesn't have an intercom, it's a big long rectangle, the door's not on the front or the rear, oh, maybe it's on the sides, because some of the drivers are lying sacks of shit who can't seem to figure out that if you can't see a building, like a door on the front of a building or a rear of the building, maybe look around the sides. Because I was sat, I was alternating between walking back and forth in the piss and rain and being sat in the stairwell because of me legs and back being a pain in the arse. And on one of the occasions where I was taking a break, the courier rocked up in his electric van, so I didn't hear the damn thing. And drove off saying, with like a photo of the wheelie bins for the commercial units, saying that nobody was in. Meaning that that driver was a lying sack of shit. So what actually happened was, he was too thick to think, I can't see your front door. I can't see your back door. Maybe there's a side door. That plus there's this larger issue with the courier in question doesn't give the driver's company phones, and they don't obligate them to use their personal phones, which is perfectly understandable, because if I had a job where they didn't provide us a company phone and they asked us to use my personal phone for business purposes, I would tell them to naff off. Not least because I don't want customers, you know, like, I haven't worked in retail, but I have, like, read enough experiences of people that have worked in retail and been in shops often enough to know that people are assholes. I wouldn't want to give any customers the opportunity to harass me. So, basically the courier's not fit for purpose for anybody that lives in a building that doesn't have an intercom. This building was built in the 1960s without an intercom for some reason and was never upgraded with one. So until that gets resolved, I've told the computer company that I can't buy anything from them because I can't rely upon them to deliver anything. Which didn't really come up with regards to any of the computers until like recently, but when I tried to buy me NAS, like they tried and failed that many times and actually ignored delivery instructions to the point where it was like, we realised they're not going to be able to complete the delivery, so we explicitly told them, if the person looks at the manifest and sees this note on the delivery, oh, why? No, get back. Why is it saying... I thought the hover only drifted vertically, horizontally. I shouldn't have, like, drifted vertically. There we go. What was I ranting about? Courier nonsense. Oh yeah, so I ordered the NAS, and it got to this point where they just completely failed to deliver it. So we put a note on, telling them that, you know, if the driver looks at the manifest, sees this note, it says, like, if you're not able or willing to, like, make a phone call upon arrival, because, you know, no intercom, just don't deliver it. And just send it back for a refund. And they ignored that twice. So, yeah, that's why I'm fairly confident that this national logistics company is incompetent. Well, see, that's the thing. Because of this whole thing with the phones, I'm not calling them lazy, because if the company doesn't provide them with work phones, it's perfectly understandable that they don't use their personal phones to call people. It's perfectly understandable. The lazy fuckers are the ones who drive off after seeing the front and the back. It's not just me that has that problem, but there's not enough of people in the residential units for the landlord to justify spending the thousands of pounds to get intercoms installed. So there's that nonsense as well. Too many damn trees. Well, that's the thing. If the direction on the order says there's no intercom, please call, but they're not able to call, that's not lazy, that's just an unfortunate circumstance due to the employer being a pain in the arse. The ones where they ignore the instruction to say, if you're not willing or able to deliver, that's a problem. Then there's the lying sack of shit who couldn't be asked to deliver my computer. So, like, the computer was with DBD for them to deliver it. And like I said, they drove off without checking the side door. Because if they checked the side door, I would have heard them. Because I was, you know, sat in there. I immediately called up to complain. So, like, you're obviously still in the area. Can you turn around and come back? So they were on the phone with them for a while, and then they called back and say, well, you know, he will come back. He'll ring you when he gets here. He never did. So he's like that driver. I'm saying was like a lying lazy sack of shit because he was meant to call and he didn't, which meant my evening was completely fucked because normally after work it's quite common for us to take a nap. I don't set an alarm because, like, generally if I'm not exhausted and I need to take a nap after work, setting an alarm isn't productive because quite often I'll wake up and just feel too tired or ill or whatever. But like, force yourself to stay awake until about 9:30 with the expectation that, oh, like, maybe the courier's going to come. And because of this nonsense of, oh, he couldn't turn right around and come back, which I think is a complete load of shit. Because to give people an hour-long window for delivery, it's not going to take them that long to turn around, drop off my parcel, and go continue with the delivery, because I really didn't give a shit about how it would inconvenience the other customers. I'm the one that's inconvenienced by him being a lying lazy sack of shit. Saying that I wasn't in when I was. Oh, anyway, this viaduct's finished. Yay! Hadn't realised that. Time flies when you're having a rant. Blah, 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 blah. So, I missed an hour of work waiting for the lying lazy sack of shit to turn up. I wasn't going to sit around with for an undefined period of time waiting for him to turn up after work. I just had to sit inside and wait for the phone call and everything. And then it turns out that the tracking that DPD uses is sufficiently delayed to be useless. Because I was sat out with a stool and an umbrella, so I could actually stay outside, like, the flat doors the entire time, rather than resting me legs and me back inside, and obviously helping, like, hold the umbrella for when it starts pissing it down. When the tracking app said it was 15 minutes away, the van rolls up. So if I had been waiting inside in total comfort, and then leave it till the last few minutes to, like, go wait for them, he would have come to the door and driven off. Which is why I'm, like, comfortable talking shit about DPD. I don't believe it's competent for a national logistics company to, like, run the business the way they do. Going back to the other tangents, because of ranting. Quite a lot. Oh yeah, now I've got the bots to finish this shit from the other day. Where was I? Oh yeah, so the thing with the captions shit is I've been thinking about completely complicating how those files are stored. Because one of the things with like the way they work is you've got these 30,000 files, and I need to have access to them like fairly rapidly. So I'm thinking I could do some Dockerization nonsense to the effect of like the files are stored, like well, the files are accessed over an HTTP interface or like a socket interface or whatever. Like, I mean, because like once the files have been downloaded and scanned, they don't read, like, as long as the contents don't change, they should hypothetically never need to be scanned again. But one of the options I've got is I think I can run Docker on me NAS. And there's even an M.2 slot in the NAS if I want to do something like really funky. Of storing those 4.5 gigabytes of files on a completely separate machine and accessing them over HTTP. I'm not sure what the performance impact of that's going to be, because it currently takes 0.08 seconds for the current machine to read. Well, sorry, no, 0.05 seconds for the current machine to just load them up on a primed I/O cache, and 0.8 to 0.9 to 0.08 to 0.09, sometimes even 0.12 seconds for the old PC to load it up. And obviously, like, that's being held in memory, and the way PHP scripts interact with tarballs is it's not very efficient. So my hope is that by doing some Dockerization bullshit, I can solve the I/O problem, but possibly introduce a new one, and I'm not sure it's worth actually the development time in doing it. I'm just realising these signs can be updated because the inputs have been assigned because of the belting. Also, other development to-dos for the archive site is let's see, hang on a second, which one of these? Whoop, whoop. There we go. Sure, I've got a power cable. Here we go. Yeah, other development thingies for the archive site is picking up Q&A, well, questions and answer clips from within another clip. Currently those are listed in the search tool. So, like, the transcripts for them, like, well, those that have transcripts available, because some don't, from YouTube, like, the search results will come up, but the entire transcript for the entire video that they're in will be displayed. And if that's from, like, YouTube's, like, the YouTube hosted update launch stream segments, like, that's going to be a huge transcript. So that's one of the other things that's probably got more usefulness that I need to find development time for. And also, doing any work on that kind of thing, while I was waiting, my computer was just like a big no. But got the computer eventually, despite the complete lack of assistance from the DPD courier, who shall remain unnamed while the complaint is still in progress. As mentioned, not buying any more stuff from the computer supplier until they get it solved. Just line them back. Yep. I mean, it doesn't, like, it's not going to make much difference to the computer supplier. But in terms of, like, the customer relations thing, it's not exactly good. Okay, so the middle ones got to go to the bottom. Here we go, let's get these swapped around. So, yeah, the computer supply do have other contracts with other couriers, but the issue is unless they can guarantee that the couriers can use phones, I can't reliably do anything with them. But like the computer supply support process and stuff are really quite helpful. So like I don't have any problem, you know, deal with my current computers, but until I move out of this place that doesn't have a damn intercom because the landlord won't install one, and there's no grants available either, so like it would have to come entirely out of pocket. I just can't reliably get anything delivered from them. So all has to go to the Amazon locker. Yeah, actually, that's another thing. The computer supplier does have an Amazon store, so obviously, hypothetically, I could get them maybe to deliver stuff to the Amazon locker if we figure it out, maybe. But there's an issue of that's not really a supported thing, and obviously you can't get an entire computer delivered to an Amazon locker. So yeah, like moving's really my only option. So here we go. We've got that signage done. That means the only thing left is the heavy modular frame. Responding to DMs. Stuff I was waffling on about to myself. We've got that viaduct installed, so let's get around the side of the building. There we go. So we've got a nitrogen packing plant to install down there. Belting's all done. Manifold's ready. So it'll be nitrogen plant, heavy modular frame, aluminum casing, and then getting the belting sorted out because existing belting is going to get reused. And then I'll finally be getting the fused modular frames produced. There we are. And as for the plan for the VOD, like live stream clipping, it's hit the Q&A segment. Those are traditionally clipped offline, just because it requires less focus. Like if I try and do stuff in Satisfactory while I'm doing the Q&A segment, I have to like stop what I'm doing in Satisfactory a lot, or I end up like missing the beginning and end of segments. There's that. But yeah, aside from me ranting, the plan just to come up a lot earlier. While I'm here, let's put a walkway in. Yeah, so something I was possibly ranting to myself earlier was current plan with the VOD stuff is get the Q&A segment stuff done. This VOD is probably going to go up in its entirety, which like there is some precedent for. It's just that some of these segments like bleed into each other, so trying to separate them for like the traditional multi-video processing, it's just not really feasible this time around. Then we've got last week's YouTube video to sort out, and then this week's YouTube video to sort out, which I haven't even watched. The current plan here is I am going to get this signage finished, but I was intending to come off earlier. Get something to eat. Finish watching Downton Abbey, because I've got the last 2 films left to watch. So like, that's what I was doing instead of live stream clipping like last week and a bit, is binge watching Downton Abbey. It's surprisingly good. It's not something I would have expected to have enjoyed. But it started coming up with YouTube clips, and I was just like, oh, seems interesting enough, with all the good actors in it, especially like watching Maggie Smith talk shit about people in the way that only an aristocrat can. Well, I did realise it is basically a high-class soap opera. And I don't like soap operas. They're shit. So, there's that. But, you know, lots of good actors in it. And there's also this thing, I think, like I mentioned, like Max Seek about it. And it was like one of my co-workers as well at my day job. I have this like fondness for describing TV shows and films in really absurd ways, especially with regards to actors and the roles they've portrayed. So you've got scenes where Daredevil is flirting with Death's granddaughter and also a possessed scarecrow from Doctor Who. So that's amusing. There's other references like that I made like to Max Seek and my co-worker, but it's not fresh in my memory, so I can't like recall them all. Oh yes, that's the thing. Both Picard's son and Professor Xavier's sons are in Downton Abbey as well. If one wishes to continue this absurd thing of referring to actors by the roles that they have portrayed.
Harvest.
Funnily enough, the actor who plays like Death's granddaughter in The Hogfather, and the character she portrays in Downton Abbey has got like a lot in common with each other. Because Death's granddaughter is what's her full title? Let's have a look. Pull up the L Space Wiki. Susan Store Elite. Her Grace the Duchess of Store Elite. Lazy Susan Death Store Elite. Might be pronouncing that wrong. So they are of a similar aristocratic vintage. Anyway, with that autosave kicking in, I think I should leave myself a sign to remember what the hell I'm doing next. I have this habit of forgetting shit. I don't do that factory. Just to wrap up what was rambling about there before I started going off about Downton Abbey and Discworld. Yeah, I might be back this evening because I did have like the post lunch nap eventually. It took us a while. So I should be up for a while. So I'm gonna set the oven away, preheat, and pop on some like one of the first of the two remaining Downton Abbey films, and either I'll be off to bed, in which case I'll be live stream clipped in the morning, possibly after the Amazon delivery's been, or I'll be back on. Well, I'll be back live stream clipping, but doing it offline to get rid of the Q&A segment. And then at the weekend, so I've got those two YouTube videos to do. I can clip those on stream, which means I might not get back to Zelda streaming until next week, if I've got time. I mean, there's a bank holiday Monday, so I've got like the entire day off. But yeah, there's a lot of shit to catch up on. Anyway, that's all for now. Goodbye. Thanks for joining.